Afternoon, David.
Hello, David. How you doing?
I'm knackered, David. I'm getting too old for these weekends away.
There's plenty of life in an old fiddle yet. Don't worry about it. You'll do it.
There's plenty of life in the old fiddles I was way. I'm knackered. The karaoke night was online, so anybody wants to watch it.
Let's do this one.
The karaoke night's been published on the Silent Klansman's YouTube and Facebook channels.
So, anyway, look at this. It's like I've just noticed I've got a bloody hole. That washer of mine's too strong, right? But my salt tile's going off for this, and it's got a hole.
Yep.
So I've ordered a Scottish, not British.
Cool.
T-shirt tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes.
Right, that's Facebook on board. Good afternoon, Alan Duncan. Oh, that's what I was doing while you were talking about your T-shirt there, David. I was bringing Facebook on board.
Good.
Not bad. 50 on the go already.
Yep.
Give me a couple more minutes to get in, and then we'll get this thing underway. But see, so it was a good weekend, David, but I'm knackered. I can't keep up with the pace of these guys.
I know.
I'm getting a bit old for these marathon fucking baby sessions, you know. But Eddie's there. Eddie and I were in the pub yesterday for a quickie.
I used to down England. I used to know guys.
Regan, if you're podcasting tonight, can you drop the details into the comments, please, so I know what time to put my pods in? Thank you.
I used to know folks down in England that what they do is they go out most nights of the week and they drink, they scoff a gallon. 14 pints. 14 pints.
Listen, Michael, who came out from Ireland to enjoy the festivities, Michael Burns. I think he did about 4 bottles of wine, 18 gallons of beer, probably a couple of bottles of spirits, and he was only there one night.
Was there anything left?
Aye, he left a case of beer and a bottle of Morgan Spice. Wow.
Dear. Anyway.
Oh, it was wild, David. Right. E2 on board. Who's in? Hi, Chris. Hi, Lorraine. Hi, Roddy. Regan Elite, 8 p.m. Thank you very much. Always, I'll keep that in mind. Wake up and smell the rosemaries. Steve McNeil, Tina Chalmers. We're in Dundee. And Margaret Brand. Margaret, wow. That was some party, lassie. Hey, that was some party. And you used a lot in that hot tub. That was hilarious. This one's going to go down in history as one of the best gigs we've ever been at, David. Just a bunch of old campaigners getting together, you know.
Here's me, I can't even get the bloody
you will join the next one. When
I get my new leg at the next Friday, they tell me it's got a brand new V8 engine in it. So get going pretty well.
And Desiree says, I think it's hoof rather than scoff for a drink. Haha. Right. Where are we? We're one short of the 100 mark, so let's get this underway. Big story today, David. GPs are no happy talking about strike action. Apparently, because of the effects of inflation, cost of energy, increase in national insurance, they can't afford to hire on the present funding model. And we're being told our GP services are falling to bits. Now, the British Medical Association's GP representative here in Scotland, Dr. Ian Morrison, he's saying time for a new funding model. The 2018 model is out of date, and the GPs want the real-time cuts, apparently, reversed. They're saying real-time cuts since 2008 have been 290 million quid, and they want that restored to the frontline service, GP services. Neil Gray, the Health Secretary, points out that they have been increasing the funding all the time, but it's not been enough to cover inflation, energy costs, and the latest change to national
So
insurance.
let me see if I get this right. Right? They've had increases. It's just those increases haven't quite kept up with what's been going on, right?
Yes.
Greedy bastards.
Now,
There's lots of people in this country that have gone way down on what they were earning, what they were bringing in, right? And it's like, as far as I'm concerned, what we don't need a new funding model. We need some new doctors. Simple as that. We need some additional doctors. Best way to do that is where they get retired, turn them off, new contract that gives them a sensible wage. GPs ain't that good. General practitioners. These are people that weren't hospital doctors. They weren't consultants or anything like that at all, right? And as far as I'm concerned, it's like they're pill dispensers, majority of, right? And it's like come on, David, you know the score here, right? I don't normally ever go at people in Scotland, but this one I'm going, this is fucking wrong. They're complaining chance to get, and also during the pandemic, they closed their fucking doors. Nobody can hear anything else. They'd closed their doors.
Aye.
So, as far as I'm concerned, the doctors in Scotland now they've got bad press, and they want any support of us. Tough titty, something as that.
Bit rough. Why don't I address this, Karen? I'm really sorry to hear that. That's dreadful. I hope your niece is okay, and I hope the lass that took the crossbow bolt to the head's okay. That's pretty mental. Karen's saying that her niece and her friend were attacked in Leeds at the weekend. Her niece was shot twice, and her friend took a crossbow bolt to the head. England has totally fallen.
Yeah.
Oh dear, oh dear. Karen, I hope your niece recovers.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Roddy. Thank you. Get this up to speed.
Right. So anyway, yeah, that's my feeling on the GP services. Some GPs are great, right? But you know, they work on a lot of times they work on outmoded information, right? And it's like you're getting out of date information. It's only when you get into a hospital that they go, oh no, that was they shouldn't have told that. It's this XYZ. And so GPs ain't that good. And
Neil Gray is pointed out that they're putting an extra 79 million into GP services, 25-26, and or for this year anyway. And what he's saying is he's willing to sit down and talk to the doctors about a new funding model. You know, now the doctors have said strike action is an option, but they don't want to do that because they know it'll be bad for the nation's health.
No, so what do you think would happen if the doctors absolutely went on strike? What's going to happen? Somebody ends up with illness or whatever. What they're going to do is either A, they're going to phone an ambulance, get to the hospital, or they're going to get a lift, get a hospital, and go to the A&E. Some of that.
Yeah, but the A&Es are already busy.
But then that is the solution. That's the straightforward solution. Is most people would agree. Yeah.
Well, as I say, Dr. Ian Morrison, who represents GPs in Scotland in the British Medical Association, says that that will be the very, very, very last thing that they would do, and they don't want to. I imagine they're actually just looking for a bigger slice of the increased NHS pot size, as the SNP are investing a record-breaking 21.9 billion in health for 25-26.
My answer to the GPs is, don't take this personally.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm hoping my GP doesn't watch this because I think she's a wonderful person, does a great job.
I'll get one of them as well. But I can tell you, my experience of dealing with doctors go way back to general practitioners is dreadful. Absolutely dreadful.
I have to say your surgery is brilliant. You've heard me say it all the time, David. Your surgery is brilliant. Our doctors are very quick at coming up with an idea and sending you for a test. You know. Right, let's move on to doctors.
You could do that. Seriously. You get somebody coming through the door, my head keeps falling off, right? Oh, right, hang on, I'll get you booked in for a test for that, right? End the story, right? My head falls off, but it feels off a sore when that happens, right? Oh, tell you what, I'll send you for a test, but in the meantime, well, I'll do you a wee script, give you painkillers. There you go. Honestly, it's not a brain challenge, really not. General practitioners are going ridiculous. Reason I keep on looking to say is the camera is right in the way of that.
DJ, you're right, there isn't any document to say such a thing, but there has been a precedent set. But I'm not to say this is a debate I'm staying out of.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we? We're moving on. Right. The Equalities and Human Rights Commission has issued its new temporary guidelines on single-sex spaces. Okay, now what's this all about? Well, actually, it's about slapping the poor people who are trans.
That's right.
So what does it say? It says that trans women should use men's toilets and trans men should use women's toilets. It says that hospitals, shops and restaurants should be looking at single-sex spaces.
So therefore, what you're saying is, whatever they were born as,
that's the toilet
they use, right? Now, I'll give you a practical situation, right? My daughter went to school with a wonderful person, right? Who was trans. Boy going to a girl, right? And some fine, okay, normal at school, right? Blah blah blah. But then if he was going out, or she was going out with my daughter, going into town, see a concert, whatever. This was one of the most gorgeous females you ever saw in your life. Now, can you imagine that dressed up as a female and then having to go to a men's toilet in the city centre? That's cruel. That's really, really cruel. And shouldn't be allowed. Simple as that.
You say, Jim Bob, I'm staying out of this one. I'm staying out here. The amount of times we broke this down and said this could work, that could work, that could work, I'm not playing.
Hang on a second.
Right, so what does it say about schools, David?
Off topic. Don't do that. Right.
What do you call it? Now, what does it say about gyms? It says single-sex gyms, including lesbian single-sex gyms, should not allow trans men to join, trans women to join. It says that single-sex male gyms and gay gyms should not allow trans men to join. It will issue guidance for sporting associations at a later date.
That's a bit more nuanced, that one, right?
Aye.
There's a bit more to that one, and you got to look at all the various angles. But when you're sending someone that is transitioning from a man into a woman, right, and they've gone through a few years of going, the boobs are now bigger and all the rest of it, right? And they're maybe getting towards doing the final bit of surgery, right? And they go into, they're forced when they're out to go to a man's toilet. I would say that's
David, it's even worse than that when you think about it. What about the person who's fully transitioned, having to use a man's toilet?
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Yeah. absolutely.
Well, on the gym thing, basically what they've done is they've shut the door to gyms to trans people.
Yeah.
Now,
Which is,
own schools, David, own schools. After the age of 8, boys who identify as being female and girls who identify as being males must not be allowed to use their chosen gender's toilet. They're to use their biological gender toilet,
yeah.
and the same goes for changing facilities in schools. Okay, that one's a wee bit easier.
Yeah. The big argument, if I remember correctly, was the argument over puberty blockers. So you're actually taking these children and giving them these because they want these tablets to stop them from in puberty turning into a man or turning into a woman properly, right? And gives them time to actually make a decision on what they want to do.
Well, um, the Equalities and Human Rights Commission should change its fucking names because it obviously doesn't recognise trans people as human.
Yes, that's right. They are humans.
This nonsense, it was time it was knocked in the head.
Yeah.
Trans rights are human rights. That's what it is. We're all human and we're all entitled to the same rights.
Yeah.
Anyway, according to the Commission, additional facilities may be needed. Kimmy Badenoch says let them use a disabled toilet.
To be honest with you, right? I'm disabled.
Mm-hmm.
I use disabled toilets when I go out because I need to get myself in the bigger space and all this, right? I've got no arguments when I'm using the disabled toilet, none whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
The reason Kimmy Badnock said it because she doesn't want them anywhere near it.
It also says that single space toilets, enclosed toilets, where you can lock the door, you're in a wee room like a disabled toilet, like they have at a Lidl supermarket and things like that, which are unisex, says that's all right.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough because if to say my local store, it only has one toilet that's unisex. You know.
Yeah.
But as I say, there are avenues that have now been shut down to trans people. Like you can more or less say the gyms are shut to them now.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's only temporary guidance. Let's hope this 2010 Equalities Act can be quickly amended or rewritten. Otherwise, this culture war nonsense is going to go on forever.
But it's diverting people's minds away from what is really, really happening. So long as the unionists can keep this one up, right, the better.
Aye, well, that's true. Now, let's move on. The First Minister John Swinney to address the Scottish Trade Union Congress, where he'll demand that the UK government invests in Scotland equally, because so far all spending seems to be in England. He'll also demand parity for Grangemouth, meaning nationalise it, you buggers, you can take for Scunthorpe, and the protections that have been afforded English steel in Scunthorpe, he wants extended to the aluminium smelter here in Scotland and what's left of Scotland Steelworks, meaning the Zeal plant and the Clyde Mill rolling mill.
Yeah.
I suppose while we're still in this union, it's an argument he's got to make.
Okay, yes, I agree he's got to say the words, but any kind of response is not going to be forthcoming.
No, but if he points it out to the people, maybe he'll think it'll help.
Maybe.
When we talk about the STUC, the head of the STUC, Rose Foyer, her name is. She's had a pop at the Equalities Commission and all, by the way. She says these temporary guidance just doesn't fucking work for business.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for anybody. Sort it. Anyway, so John's going to be addressing the Scottish Trade Union Congress. Well, the SNP have been addressing the Trade Union Congress every year since they got elected into power here in Scotland. Having a good relations with the trade unions and business is part of the job of government. One of the things we're screaming for up here is workers' rights to be handed out to the Scottish Parliament. And the STUC are part of that charge. So, whether we agree with trade unionism or no, whether you're a trade unionist or no, I have to say the unions have generally been better. The place has been a better place for the union being in existence, although they've lost a lot of their power.
Yeah, but also they did, looking back to 2014, by and large, the trade unions weren't much help.
No.
Yeah.
A couple of them sat on the fence, a couple of them declared for, a couple of them declared against. So they weren't much help at all. It is important that the Scottish Government keeps up a good relationship with the STUC, because when we break this union, it'll just be our TUC. But it's interesting because the STUC has very, very little influence in the UK-TUC, Trade Union Congress. But hell, so John to make demands of UK government, this will be their answer. Well, let's move on, shall we?
Yeah, please do.
It's exam season, David. So it's slap my little darlings before they have even started their exams.
Let's demoralise the children of Scotland, by the way.
Right away. Yes. Now, what basically happens, folks, at this time of year, we talk about every year, is the education system will be belittled. The certificates that these little darlings are about to be awarded, the value of them will be doubted.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how well they do, the mainstream media will find a way to but your use of that tiddlywink wasn't quite there, was it?
See, what would basically happen is whether the exam results improve or go back, because they fluctuate by a couple of degrees, David, as you know.
Yeah.
Depending on the people coming through. 132,000 of our little darlings are about to be told they're fucking useless. And the education system that's educating them is useless. And when they achieve something, it's no worth nothing. It's the annual fucking tell our children they are crap. It's the annual tell our education system it's shite.
To be honest with you, I did happen to know quite a few highly intelligent people in England. However, I also knew an awful lot of people that
best of luck to them.
They were maybe badly schooled. Yeah, some was that, right? And so they've got their problems. We've got our problems. We do. But at the same time, our kids tend to do better than in England. But always, it's, look how good England is. Look how bad Scotland is. And I keep on going, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? In actual fact, the very first thing you've got to do is, before you do anything else, is stop demoralising. If you want any children to do well whatsoever, don't stand in front of them and go, you little bastard, you've done that wrong again. You don't do that. You help them. You try and get them to go upstream, right?
Aye.
And
I've seen the same stuff in England.
The mainstream media needs to be told this. Stop doing this to our children.
My advice is at this time of year, turn the bloody TV and radio away from the BBC, STV, Clyde, One, Good Morning Scotland. Just don't let your children hear it.
Yeah.
Because this is, by the way, I've seen it happen in England and all. I've seen it happen in Wales.
But it doesn't happen as much.
No.
seems to be pointed towards us with the big national newspapers. It's like Scotland are exams down again, right? And you start reading some of the detail. You go, no, they aren't. Compared to whatever, it tends to be that we're doing bloody well.
Well, see, my advice is just don't let your children anywhere near TV or radio for the next month. If you're driving them to school, turn the radio off in the car.
Yes, absolutely.
And when the results come in, media blackout for the kids. Because when they get their certificates, we'll have the BBC kick them and tell them their certificates are no worth anything. And they're still no worth anything. And their achievements mean nothing. So, folks, our advice would be shut it off. Don't let their children see it.
Going forward from that.
And praise them. No matter how well they do, praise them.
Yeah, and going forward from this, yet again, here comes a point where I say time for independence. Right, very good, right? But after independence, we should be looking hard at the education system that Finland has. We're not talking about changing changing teachers or whatever. We're just talking about the way they do things, right?
Well, as you know,
very, very successful.
They are trying to do that with a critical excellence, but every step forward, you've got opposition unionist parties pulling them back.
Yeah, handfuls.
Like the exam thing. They wanted to do less exams and do more. No, grading of their assignments individually and give them a score at the end of the year.
Yeah, and yet, when they do really, really well, and they end up with a university placement, majority of it is writing essays on particular sections of information and going to lectures on particular parts of what the course is. That's the way to do it. Actually have the essays graded by the people rather than exams, which in this day and age, they don't really work. They don't really do well.
Rosie, we know the attainment gap's narrowed as well. Unfortunately, the latest figures show that, but you're right, you're in the sector. As I say, but annually our little darlings get a slap off the mainstream media. Folks just switch it off.
Yeah.
I mean, if we take moving out to assessments or of assignments allocated to school, the unionist parties went, no, we want exams.
Yeah.
So it's very slow progress because you've got the propagandists and the other side saying, no, don't let them change the education system too much. They might start discovering themselves and discovering their history. So you've got the unionists there holding back the evolution of the service. But there's nothing wrong with it as it is. There's nothing wrong with the achievements or the grades or the attainments of our children. But over the next couple of weeks, we will be told that everything they've done is worthless, that the education system is broken, and it's an annual event, folks. It's an annual event.
Also something to take into account.
We're talking about this next year at this time again.
also something to take into account from what I was saying, what David's been saying, right, is that because of the pandemic, because of the lockdown, a lot of children are suffering from mental health problems, right? Those mental health problems may not be very obvious and in your face. However, they do suffer with anxiety, and the anxiety is actually driven by having to sit an exam. So the idea of exams, I think that's going away the dodo. Is that good afternoon, people? This account will be what?
Yes,
politics, social.
All your books. And good afternoon, Lucian. Hey. Anyway.
Mystic Phyllis.
We're just on the half, folks.
Yeah. Mystic Phyllis. Do
Moon
you do readings? Do you do readings about Mystic? All right.
Right. Let's move on, shall we? The First Minister's just attended the Pope's funeral. It was on Saturday. I know a wee bit more about Francis now. I've had to read up now. Back
You
in
I've read up and I've actually good guy. Seriously,
he
really
was a
good guy.
he's done a lot of good deeds, yes.
Yeah.
Now, while there, of course, we've seen that William and Trump stood out like a pair of prats because they showed up in blue suits.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
on the bright side, nice city flyer. On the bright side, it got Trump and Zelensky together, and
Yeah.
that sort of seemed a bit brought a wee bit more stability to the relationship.
I was kind of hoping that you'd see, because they were face to face on chairs, I was hoping to see the next picture has been where Zelensky sticks the head in the butt. That was just me.
Anyway, Putin has now announced another ceasefire to start on the 6th of May. I think it's for 3 days.
8th of May. Yeah.
8th of May, for 3 days. And of course, Trump's throwing a threat at Putin again, saying, oh, hell will break loose unless he's willing to come to the table and put an end to this. He's also, of course, still telling Zelensky that he's going to have to give up the Crimea. And Zelensky does that as political suicide, if no actual suicide. You know
right. I keep throwing it back, right? All hell will break loose.
Aye.
Yeah. What hell is Trump on about worse than the Russians going back to hitting with drones and missiles and whatever? But
he's talking about sanctions. He's talking about sanctions on countries that buy stuff from Russia.
So that's against Russia.
So what he's talking about, say you're India and Pakistan, who are now buying huge amounts of gas, liquid petroleum gas, and oil from Russia. Talk about sanctioning them for buying that from Russia. And as you know, David, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was bust deliberately. There's speculation about who did it.
Personally, I think it was Americans because they had the biggest money driver for doing that, because what they wanted to do was send ships across with loads and loads and loads
of Russian oil to Europe so they can sell more gas to Europe. That's right.
Yeah.
So that's why the finger's been pointed at them for the pipeline.
Yeah.
They're denying it, of course.
Nowadays, I'll be honest with you, nowadays, in terms of the American administration or whatever, right, and I even include Biden's crew on this, I wouldn't trust you as far as I can pick you up and throw you. Sorry, guys, but that's the truth of it. You've destroyed your reputation throughout the whole planet, as far as I'm concerned. You've assisted in the genocide of a nation of basically friendly people when you get to know them, right? And it's like, also what they've done is that they've lied to people over and over again. And now we've got this idiot Trump who's stepping in the middle of a peace negotiation, right? Or forcing a peace negotiation when all he's doing is he's getting in the way of what the two leaders would do naturally. Yeah?
Aye.
So at the end of the day, it's like, get the fuck. Not good. Not our friends. Not our allies anymore. Definitely not our allies.
Would you make the symbolism of William wearing a blue suit as well as Trump?
He wants to Trumpify himself. That's it. Simple as that. William is saying to him, you want Britain as the 51st state. We'll be your 51st state.
Well, that's an interesting thought on it, David. I agree. I think it was a case of, look, we're the same.
Let's get rid of the union, right? Let's get rid of the monarchy. Welcome to the Independent Republic of Scotland. Fucking brilliant.
Right. Obviously, of course, there's the by-elections this week in England. Today's the election in Canada. which it looks like the Liberals are going to win in Canada.
Yeah, I've got my fingers crossed for Mark because Mark's a good guy. Mark spoke up for Scotland in the past, so therefore I've got no difficulty in speaking up for him now.
Now, these by-elections, these council elections in England are going to be seen as a thermometer of where England's at.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll see how it plays out. But that brings to mind, you know, you're saying to yourself, how will this play out? If there was a general election tomorrow, how would it play out? Well, I went to electoral calculus because they do the poll of polls, you know, and they do an average for all the polls. So we'll put it up. Hold on, I get back to the top of the page. This is a bit that interests us. After the general election was held tomorrow, the Conservatives will get 133 seats, Labour will get 180 seats, Lib Dems will get 49, Reform UK, according to the MRP poll, will get 227, the Greens would get 4 seats, the SNP would get 30 seats, Plaid 4, and others 5. So independents and smaller parties. And what's interesting there is Reform UK would win. Labour could get into the Lib Dems and probably keep them out with a coalition.
So in other words, what you're saying from this poll of polls, is that if Reform don't bring out the goods on this particular election, then all bets are off.
Aye.
Something like that.
But I mean, Reform are expected to do well in these council elections. Now, the other thing that's interesting is that what the polling companies found and what people are thinking is there's a monumental shift on, and both the mainstream parties doing that were going to take a kicking in these council elections, with the Lib Dems, the Greens, and Reform expected to do well. Now, when they looked at the split of how voters vote, David, so I'll bring that down. We look at the split of how voters are expected to vote. If there is going to be this diversion away from the main parties as they expect, young women are going to the Greens or the Libs. Young men seem to be flocking to the banner of Reform.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting when they look at the breakdown. So there's more women than what there is men. Let's hope that's enough to hold Reform at bay. But that particular MRP poll predicts that Reform UK will be the biggest party, and they would be strong enough to hold everybody off.
The most important thing is that we still will have a duopoly, right? And what it'll be is it'll be one. In the past it's been Labour, Tory, Labour, Tory, Labour, Tory, right? Okay. You might have had coalitions on amongst that, but there were small coalitions. So the main thing is Labour, Tory, Labour, right? You've still got that. Even if Reform managed to win the election, it'll still be a duopoly. This time it'll be someone else against Reform. Or Reform will do a coalition with the Tories. It's the ultra-right versus the fascists. Something like that.
Well, what's interesting in these council elections in there as well is Kimmy Badenoch has said that she would allow the Tories and the councils to go into coalition with Reform UK. So if you take 227 and 133 Tories, would they go into coalition with each other in Westminster?
Mm-hmm.
As long as Nige gets to be the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Isn't
that what's happening in Scotland anyway? That not Reform, we're talking about Labour and Tory in the councils. We see a lot of them pallied up together.
You know, Angus Council's just done it. The Tory and Labour have just went to coalition in the Angus Council.
Yeah.
You know, Sarwar's saying on the run up to elections, no coalition with SNP, no coalition with Tories. And yet, here we have him getting into coalition with the Tories.
What a liar. What a liar.
Natural born liar.
Yes.
He most certainly is. Right, so let's move on, David. A wee roll back in the coalition of the willing, apparently. Starmer said that he would be willing to put a peacekeeping force into Ukraine, as you know, with a coalition of the willing. Well, the General Staff have just told him, no, you fucking won't. There's no enough of us.
You're left with this picture. 5 soldiers stood out there with a thing, with a bayonet sticking out of each one of them, and then the bayonet falls off. Oh fuck, yeah. At the end of the day, it's like we do not have the armed forces we once had. What's Starmer playing at? You know.
Well, the General Staff have just told him, look, Daffy, we couldn't have put 10,000 men into Ukraine. We don't have them. We don't have the equipment for them.
Yeah. I mean,
so
look at it this way, right? North Korea sent men across to the front that the Russians have got.
Yep.
And the benefits to them were it battle hardens their own troops by doing that, right? And 10,000 to them, 10,000 be nothing because they've got over 1 million people in their armed forces. Yeah. I was told at the time, it's only down so it's your upper ranks so they can actually work it. But as far as I'm concerned, best idea would be for North Korea to send all their grunts, sorry for the phrase, across the Russian front and get them battle hardened. Simple as that.
Anyway, it turns out that the coalition that are willing will need to be willing without them.
Aye. Why don't we just send Starmer?
He's been there a few times. The Russians have missed.
No, just send him. Well, he can stand there with.
Well, apparently they're fitting him up in a helmet. I've seen it on the press, so I would just send him. He can do it. Yeah, he can do it all by himself. I'm sure he'll manage with his coalition of the willing. You know, but apparently he might be willing, but the generals ain't.
Yeah.
And as the generals don't really answer him, they answer Charlie.
I was saying before the show, I saw a meme put up by, it looked as if it had been put up by Reform, where they were talking about that the control of the British Armed Forces was going to be handed across to Brussels. You know, so, yeah, and the implication was obviously Reform were going, look at that, they're going to build a European army, right? And we're not going to say so in this whatsoever. There's no independence in that whatsoever. And I thought, hey, that'd be really good. We'd not get any British soldiers come up the road to blow and shoot at Scotsmen as they did in the turn of the last century in Glasgow, if you know your history. So therefore, I think that's a good thing. Bring it on. Yes.
It's a nonsense article, of course, David. Nonsense.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking of picking the phone up to Macron and say, Macron, can you do that? Yeah, please. Yeah.
Well, aye. Now, let's move on. This was interesting. This is why I picked it up. Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy says TV licence fee not enforceable. It tells the BBC to behave itself as they go into a review of the service and how it's funded.
Right.
This seems to happen every time there's a change of government. I guess they want to change it at the top. I guess they want to get clear out the Tories and put in red Tories instead of blue ones.
She's playing
That's
the circle.
normally what happens, you know.
All she's doing is populism. She's playing the circle. That's all she's doing. Right.
So anyway, folks, the licence fee is not enforceable. Don't fucking pay it.
That's right. And there it is. You actually got a member of Parliament of the controlling administration down at Westminster that has told you don't have to pay your TV licence anymore. There you go. So when if you end up in an argument, just say, go and speak to Lisa Nandy. She's told us it's all right not to pay you buggers.
And hopefully it'll put an end to these threatening letters that they send out.
Stupid. That's that. That of all is blooming stupid.
I got one today, they were just sitting in a bin.
Yeah, I think now we've got a situation whereby institutions try to do it the easy way. They find somebody that's weak. They go bang, letter, right, money, right, and that's it. They've done it, right. Whereas if we all man up, excuse the French, right, we all man up, then it means that we can all go get stuff. Are these yours? Because I ain't paying you. Something like that. Take it off the TV. Take BBC off the TV and all the rest of it, right? But at the end of the day, I'll still be watching TV. Is with that.
Aye. Just to watch live is trouble.
It doesn't matter.
Apparently.
See now, because Lisa and Andy said that, doesn't
You're
matter.
not in trouble now. No. But the question is, why? Why is she putting a boot into the baby now?
Yeah, plus the fact, can I just tell you, I, as a youth in training technician apprentice, I worked on the blooming vans for a while with a twirly blooming roof rack, right? And they could not tell you anything. If you had one house sat in a street and it was watching BBC, you might have a chance of doing that, right? And they had a Polaroid camera attached to all the gear, the rest of it, that showed the emanations from the TV. See, it was a set of flats. Forget it. Don't be daft, right? And they knew that, but it was still there.
You know, foreign programmes from England, not our broadcaster.
Right, to be honest with you, I would say I would carry that further than that. Any program whatsoever, right? What they've done. I mean, River City was loved by a lot of people on BBC, and that's it. I don't know if it's gone yet or it's going, but that means that the amount of money that's been spent on Scottish TV, on Scottish productions, is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Well, the jocks having their own stories on the telly.
But the thing is, you look at people like Martin Thompson. He's a giant of an actor now, right? And it's like you go through them, all the Scottish actors and actresses, right? And they're absolutely brilliant. They do get into some of the biggest films going and all the rest of it, right? But Scottish TV, Scottish produced dramas or whatever should be the name of the game. We should be able to do that, and we're not.
Even if we did not doing it, we're not getting anywhere to broadcast it. They don't want us talking to ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the British Broadcasting Corporation.
Yeah.
It's in their charter, maintain the union.
How's about we get together a crowdfunder, right, for producing a dramatisation of the 2014 referendum. That would be excellent. That would. You could show the MI5 in there, blooming trying to screw up the system. No,
you're right to show David. We'll tape it and put it out. All right now.
And you could have the ballot boxes getting picked up, put in the back of vans over the hills and far away, and then they turn off, and another one takes up its place. That carries on where the ballot boxes are made up. Now they want where the no votes. There you go. That's the way to go.
Right. The next one's interesting, David, as we round this one up. Research by Professor Eilish Henderson of the University of Edinburgh and Professor Richard Wynne-Jones, titled The Shameful Conquest of England, and it found that less than half of respondents said it was a priority that the UK stay together. Now, these were respondents in England.
Yeah.
No. And this also includes, and one of the reasons they found in the research was that 33% of the people in England still think they subsidise us.
No, that. I'll bet you 33% of the people in Scotland think they would still subsidise. We're subsidy junkies, right? So fuck off on that one, right? So at the end of the day, we want to get our own people waking up first before we concentrate on getting anybody else. far as I'm concerned, I'm not interested in what the people of England.
No, but what's interesting, David, is the English people seem to want independence and all.
Yeah, well, they get what they want, but at the end of the day, I can assure you, see, they did it. They'd find a way to keep Scotland tagged onto it. That's the way it would happen.
I probably have the independent Scottish currency pegged to the fucking English pound, probably.
Probably. Yeah.
But anyway, the research, as I say, the Edinburgh University found that actually keeping the territorial integrity of the UK means nothing to the people of England. They would much rather have the Brexit.
Yeah.
They'd just rather have the Brexit. And if that means shedding Scotland and Northern Ireland, they're happy to do it. No. So if we keep impeding on the Brexit, maybe they'll demand independence.
What you've got to look at is the people of England, by and large, don't understand the value of Scotland, right? So what would happen is they don't know the value of Scotland, but I assure you, the politicians who are able to take part and look in the House of Commons library, they do know what the score is. And they'll find, well, if they lost Scotland, England would be in a lot of soapy bubble.
Right, in the same study, because we were looking at specifically people in England this study, right? In the same study, it tells us that 60% of the people in England say current politics make them feel angry. 55% of them also, in response to the survey, said that current politics has them frightened. And only 3% have any hope or any faith in the current political system. A fascinating piece of research.
Let's go for the fascists, they say. Let's get reforming.
Right, and apparently the angriest voters are the Greens and Reform.
The Greens are angry because the people have been out there blowing themselves to the fucking roads, right? They're getting locked up, so that's why the Greens are angry, right? The people from who vote Reform, they're just angry. They're gamins.
Now, what this study also says is that Englishness, identifying as English instead of British, is still a powerful force in England, and that's what's driving the rise of Reform. Apparently.
Hang on a second. Reality check here. Englishness is Britishness. They are the two phrases exactly the same, right? If that's not British, right? What they mean is that's not English.
Aye, that is what they mean. But anyway, they're saying that's what's driving the rise of Reform. We know we actually know for a fact it's the mainstream.
If I am at all offending anybody from England, I apologise. I really do apologise. But you've got to look at it in the round and understand what we're observing. This is not the politics of grievance. It's the politics of reality, of what actually happens to people in Scotland, how we are treated and how we are thought of throughout this country, and sometimes by our own people.
But anyway, in the rounding up, Professor Reeves Jones, whatever his name is, Wyn Jones or whatever it was, in the summing up, it says, meanwhile, there's little in our findings to suggest there is any enthusiasm for the UK Union among the English. And but they would rather have the Brexit than Scotland and Northern Ireland. But what it does say is Leavers nor Remains are happy with the Brexit settlement. And although it seems that most Leavers would like to forget it ever happened, they just want to stick their head in the bucket. But I really thought it was a fantastic study because we already knew that the English people didn't really care if the union stayed together or no. In fact, a lot of the English people were hoping we'd take our independence because it might institute change doing that.
The reason why they're upset, why they're so upset, is because they thought, as Nigel Farage said at the time, this is our Independence Day. when Brexit was eventually, right? And Brexit hasn't turned out at all as they were all told.
Oh, what's
right?
the about Brexit freedoms? It was in the fucking press again this morning.
Yeah,
You know, what Brexit fucking freedoms? We've just been put in jail inside Barrenby Island.
Yeah, 350 million goes to the NHS every week. Does it? Due to Brexit? No, I wouldn't say that's the case. Maybe 350 million goes to somebody every week, but it's not the NHS. It's maybe private healthcare companies, whatever. Right? There you go. Ask Boris, he knows.
Well, as I say, you know, we didn't need the research for Edinburgh University to tell us that the English have got no enthusiasm for the union either, you know.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have them confirm what you already know.
Yes. Yes.
Now, somebody there had the idea of what we have a referendum to kick the English out. Sorry, only English Parliament. A Parliament is allowed to decide whether we have a referendum on kicking them out the UK Union or no.
There seems to be this nonsense that we got that the English that come and live here are against us, right? That's patently not the case.
That is nonsense, actually. That is nonsense.
It's like we were talking this morning about good old Mark the taxi driver. I watched him yesterday. This was at the time of the 2014 referendum, and he was telling people about the Macron report. Absolutely brilliant. The guy was superb. English as they come, you know, beautiful English accent, and there he was telling us about the Macron report and how rich Scotland would be and all the rest of it, right? Hard currency, blah blah, you name it, right? So there's Mark. But there's a lot of people. There's actually a group called English for Scottish Independence.
I know.
We saw the rise of these people. That's wonderful.
That was nice. It's a bloody great big group. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, it's not a case of that's going, well, we're pulling the ladder up after us. No, they're here and they realise that for this country to actually do as it says in the tin that it should do, we need Scottish independence. End of story. If you've got any other idea in your head, you're wrong. Scotland needs independence. It needs to be away from these idiots that will use Scotland as a cash cow. Use Scotland as a dumping ground for their nuclear weapons. You name it, right? Scotland is just something they can use.
That's true. Anyway, we'll need to round it up there, David. Coming up at 5 o'clock. Interesting to get back. Quite a rough weekend. Say Margaret there, who was with us, is off to her bed. She's knackered. Unfortunately, I'm off to work, and by the time I get in, I'll be knackered. But hey, well, it's good to get back into the saddle after no day in a show this morning, folks. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Normal service shall resume.
When do you want me?
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning, right? Okay, I'll try and remember that, right?
But if you can't make it, you can't make it. You better be here on Thursday.
Right, I'll be here.
Right, that's amazing.
I should make it Wednesday. Right, so anyway, guys, if you've enjoyed us, please hit the like button. Obviously, we're still looking for people to subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so, because it does change the algorithm so that we get a little bit more money out of the silly ads that they put on YouTube when people are watching after the live, right? So that's it. If you enjoyed us, we are the Two Davies. If you hate us, then we're the Star Wars Appreciation Society. So
that one for a while.
Hi guys.
Right, thanks moderators. Thanks for everybody who gave us a super chat today. I'm back now. I'll start looking for the food bank in Easter House. I already have the details of one in Drum Chat with David. And I'll look for a food bank in Castlemilk by the end of the week. Hopefully we'll get the money out the door. Okay. £935 in the bank, 750 will go out this week at some point. Alright. So thanks guys. David, catch you later, my friend. Oh, hold on. Bye.
Bye.